Welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast, part of the Vertical Helicast family, alongside Hangar Z, the Helicopter Podcast, and Vertical MRO Podcast. All the platforms are located at verticalhelicast.com. Go check them out. They're a wonderful, wonderful podcast. A quick shout out to our sponsors for this in particular episode, and that's Switlick. They have introduced a new full custom dry suit. Go check them out at switlick.com to find out more. Breeze Eastern, extensive experience in rescue hoist and cargo handling equipment. Check them out today at breeze-eastern.com. Axness, it's their mission to provide wireless intercom systems. Check them out today at axness.com. And of course, I've got to mention the realrescuestore.com. Get all sorts of Real ResQ gear, from hats to shirts to mugs and more. Go check out the realrescuestore.com. Now, coming up next in this episode, we are joined by an entire United States Coast Guard crew and an epic story of a rescue off Northern California and Southern Oregon, right on the border, almost 100 miles offshore. The story is amazing. The whole crew is here to talk about it. So please welcome the Coast Guard crew and their rescue of 6 people from the sailing vessel Barlovento. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. Man, I've got a super fun story coming up, and it's only one, but we're going to get into some deep detail with this story because this entire crew saved the lives of 6 people. As a matter of fact, it wasn't just you guys, because there was another crew that came out of North Bend Air Station, and they came down to get the last 2 people off the boat.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we got that one, but I've got the crew that made the initial response. The swimmer, rescue swimmer 999. We're going to introduce him in a sec. Very first rescue. Are you freaking kidding me, dude? It still blows my mind. I love it. And we've got the PIC, the SIC, the flight mech. Everybody's here to tell us epic stories. So, guys, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. Let me introduce you. We've got Ryan O'Neill. He was the pilot. He was a pilot in command that day. We've got Adam Ownbey. He's also a pilot. He was the second in command that day. We got Peter Gaudet, flight mechanic, and just graduated from flight school. Congratulations, sir. And
Thank you.
Boy Spencer Manson, United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer, number 999. Fellas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
Heck yeah. So I'll tell you what, man, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go around the room real quick, just give a little introduction of who you guys are, where you currently are at, and then it doesn't have to be anything crazy, and then we're going to get into the rescue. So if you don't mind, Ryan, let's start with you.
All right, cool. Hey, I'm Ryan O'Neill, 65 pilot, currently stationed at Aviation Training Center, Mobile, Alabama, and I'm in the 65 division as an instructor.
Perfect. Adam.
Hi, Adam Ownbey. I'm currently at Hitron in Jacksonville, doing a little bit different of a mission with the 65, but yeah.
I dig it. Peter.
Hello, I'm Peter Gaudet. Originally, I was a flight mechanic back in Humboldt Bay for this case. Now I'm currently in NES Pensacola. I just completed flight school. I was here for the past 2.5 years. I'm headed to Port Angeles, Washington next to fly the Mighty 65.
Right on. And as a little side note plug, I did fly with your dad. I love it. And one of these days I'm gonna get him to come on and tell his stories because they're amazing. So throwing that out there. And my boy Spencer.
What's going on? Yeah, I'm still up in Humboldt, and I'll be here till 2026.
And if you could stay longer, I know you're going to try to. Oh, that's awesome. Right on. Well, hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming on, like I said. And what I'm going to do right now is you guys saved 6 lives that day collectively. So 4 from you guys, 2 from the station up in North Bend. And Ryan, Adam, and Peter, you guys all earned air medals off this rescue. And Spencer, congratulations, you earned yourself a Distinguished Flying Cross. And what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to read those. And I'm going to read everybody's, but really the meat and potatoes of the middle of each of them. So let me get this started so you guys can hear all this, right? So here's what this one says. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal. Gold Star in lieu of second. 2. Lieutenant James Ownbey, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Ownbey is cited for heroic achievement in aerial flight on 19 June 2021 while serving as co-pilot of Coast Guard Helicopter 6565. The helicopter crew launched in response to a distress alert from the sailing vessel Barlovento, located 70 miles offshore the California-Oregon border. Fighting deteriorating conditions, the crew located the disabled 79-foot schooner being battered by hurricane-force winds and 20-foot seas with 6 souls on board, 1 with serious injuries requiring immediate evacuation. Lieutenant Ownbey flew through 55-knot winds and close to 2 flailing masts to hoist the rescue swimmer 140 feet down to the water. Despite extreme winds pulling the basket 50 yards behind the aircraft, he delivered the device to the swimmer and survivor with 3 minutes of remaining fuel and, with few visual references, smoothly hoisted the survivor and swimmer from the building seas. At near maximum range of the aircraft and low on fuel, he flew the helicopter to rendezvous and transfer the injured and hypothermic survivor to the awaiting ambulance before refueling and returning to the sinking vessel. With limited fuel, Lieutenant Ownbey helped develop and innovate swimmer deployment technique to tackle the vessel's 9-knot drift. He executed 3 challenging 130-foot hoists and rescued survivors one by one as they abandoned ship. That is Mr. Ownbey's. The next one is Mr. O'Neill's. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to Lieutenant Ryan O'Neill, United States Coast Guard. Skipping down a little further, fighting deteriorating conditions, the crew located the disabled 79-foot schooner, battered by hurricane-force winds and 20-foot seas with 6 souls on board, 1 with serious injuries. Despite 55-knot winds and the boat's flailing mast, Lieutenant O'Neill elected to deploy the rescue swimmer to board the vessel and assess the patient. He guided his crew through 2 precision 140-foot high hoists and recovered the injured survivor with 3 minutes of fuel remaining. Transferring on-scene command to an arriving C-27 aircraft from U.S. Coast Guard Air Station Sacramento, he flew 90 miles to deliver the patient to an awaiting ambulance and refuel. Returning to the scene, he found the vessel still taking on water and rapidly drifting in the extreme seas as the crew prepared to abandon ship. With few options due to the vessel's tall rigging and movement, Lieutenant O'Neill and his crew modified the rescue swimmer deployment techniques and began recovering survivors one by one as they leapt overboard. He passed the same technique to Coast Guard Helicopter 6524 out of North Bend, Oregon, as they arrived to recover the last survivors and all returned safely to shore. The next one, citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal to Peter C. Gaudet, Avionics Electrical Technician, 2nd Class, United States Coast Guard. Going down further into the award, Petty Officer Gaudet expertly conned the pilot through a 140-foot high hoist in close proximity to the vessel's 2 flailing masts and deployed the rescue swimmer to the water right next to the drifting boat. He wisely attached weight bags to the basket to counter the 55-knot winds pushing it well behind the aircraft and skillfully delivered the device to the rescue swimmer and survivor with only 3 minutes of fuel remaining. He carefully managed cable swing and recovered them both from the churning seas. Returning to sector, he transferred the injured and hypothermic patient to an ambulance before refueling and returning to the scene. With limited fuel, Petty Officer Gaudet helped develop an innovative rescue swimmer deployment technique and executed 3 challenging 130-foot hoists, plucking survivors from the ocean as they abandoned ship one by one. And the last one. Citation to accompany the award of the Distinguished Flying Cross to Spencer T. Manson, Aviation Survival Technician, 3rd Class, United States Coast Guard. Moving down into the award. Fighting extreme headwinds to get to the scene, the air crew realized there was no way to deploy Petty Officer Manson directly into the out-of-control vessel due to the powerful seas and winds. Petty Officer Manson was instead hoisted 150 feet downwind of the Barlovento. As the winds and swells drove the vessel past him at over 9 knots, he grabbed a line trailing from the stern and was immediately dragged in the wake. He then had to pull himself towards the boat hand over hand through the rushing waves for 8 minutes until his shredded gloves grasped the ship's stern rail. As the vessel pitched fore and aft, he was lifted clear out of the water and then slammed back into the sea multiple times before he was able to scramble aboard. With the aircraft low on fuel, he quickly prepared the injured sailor to enter the water, jumped overboard with her, and was hoisted aboard the Coast Guard helicopter. After transferring the patient to an ambulance ashore, he and his crew did not hesitate to refuel and return 100 miles to the now sinking vessel. He then helped devise an innovative sliding deployment technique that allowed him to hang just alongside the vessel and rescue each crew member moments after they jumped into the 49-degree water. Powering through exhaustion, he recovered 3 more survivors before the helicopter 6524 from North Bend, Oregon arrived and copied the same technique to recover the last 2 souls. The crew of the 6565's actions, skills, and heroism were instrumental in saving 6 lives. Their courage, judgment, and devotion to duty in the face of hazardous conditions are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Damn, boys! That is legit! Holy shit!
Should add the fog sound effect. The burr, 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 right after you finish it.
We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Switlick. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlick Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlick.com.
You guys, that is insane. So I'll tell you what. Ryan, let's start with you. You guys are sitting at Humboldt Bay. You're chilling, probably flipping through the TV channel saying, "What's up?" And the alarm goes off. Or how did this all get started?
Yeah, it was a Saturday, and we had talked at the crew brief about grilling steaks on the Traeger there. And so my wife had went to the grocery store and just dropped off a bunch of steaks and like whatever. And I was like watching TV or whatever, and I was like going to find Adam. I was like, "Hey, want to get the crew together and start grilling?" And as soon as we like made that decision, the alarm goes off, and it was like a DSC alert. So we're like, man, my first thought was, oh, this is gonna be some like BS. We're gonna go like a million miles away. There's nothing there, and then we're gonna come back, and we're not gonna eat dinner till like 9 or 10 p.m. because of this. But then as we were like getting ready to go and like put our dry suits on, they piped that there was an EPIRB going off in the same position as the DSC alert, and we're like, oh, this might be legit.
What's a DSC? What is that?
Was it digital selective calling? It's like it's like a digital SOS alert from like, usually it's from like larger container ships, like hundreds of miles away, and they kind of get relayed through the stations. So like when I was in Miami, we would get them a lot, and it would be coming from a ship off of like Africa. And I was like, obviously we're not going to go, render any assistance to them, but it just gets kind of, the message gets relayed along. So, but then when it was a correlated EPIRB in the same spot, and I was like, oh man, this is legit, and that's pretty far away. Yeah, so we got ready to launch. Before we like started up though, we had gotten information that there was an injured crew member, and it was kind of like looking like it was going to be a medevac. So we talked about we weren't able to take like 1,900 pounds of gas. We had to take the litter. And I think the initial plan was we were going to go out there and just medevac this crew member that was injured and then bring them back, and that was going to be that. But like it took us almost an hour to get out there, and throughout that time we were talking. Well, I don't know, how far do you want me to go?
No, just bring us through like getting ready. Actually, let me divert. Spencer, did you grab the litter on this one, or did you have the basket in the back?
No, yeah, and yeah, it's funny. I don't even think I heard the alarm go off because I was like, had like ear protection on. I was like grinding out the inside of a 55-gallon drum because I was trying to make
yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
My perspective on this is this.
There. I don't know if you can see it.
Huh.
It looks great. It looks great.
But every time I smoke meat, I think about this now.
Yeah. I hear this fire alarm go off, and I go over and find Spencer shirtless upside down in a barrel, grinding it out. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making a smoker.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we gotta the EPIRB thing or whatever, the DSC or whatever. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, no, but it's like legit probably. And I was like, oh, okay.
Excellent.
Again, just for the record,
Like,
this is your very first rescue. Like I get it. You're like, oh, it could be legit. Okay, yeah, okay, cool.
it was like
All right.
that's like real. Like I was like, meh, low expectation, probably nothing. And then it was like, oh, it might be something. And then I was like, oh man. And then we're like, same thing when we were flying offshore. I remember I was looking out the little window and I was like, man, it's pretty calm, nice day. And then you get a little farther outshore and you're like, man, waves are getting big. And then you're like, wow, it's really windy. And then you're like, wow, there's a storm out here 100 miles offshore.
I remember one of you guys, it was either you or Pete, said like, man, these waves are getting bigger. Because I was like heads down, just like talking on the radio, trying to get in touch with the boat, trying to get in touch with the sector. Like we were so far offshore, we couldn't talk to anybody. We were having like, and we never actually talked directly to the boat. We were like relaying comms through this tanker that was like nearby, and somehow they were able to talk to him. The people on the boat spoke German and like broken English, so like the comms were like a mess. And I just remember like somebody was like, man, those waves are getting big, and I like look out and I was like, oh wow, yeah, they are.
Ryan and Adam, for you guys, how did you decide who was sitting right seat and who was sitting left seat? Because so Ryan, you were PIC that day, and Adam, you were SIC that day, and you end up like Adam, you were sitting right seat, Ryan was sitting left seat. How did that come out?
I think that was Ryan just being nice and letting me take the right seat. Honestly, like.
Well, you were getting ready for aircraft commander syllabus, I think, right?
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yes, that was right around that time. So
I'm all about the training program, so I was like, hey, give him
awesome.
a shot. Like he's getting ready to be an aircraft commander. Like let's put him in the right seat, and obviously Adam's a good stick, so he was gonna be just fine doing the hoisting. So it wasn't really a hard decision.
Right on. Peter, let me come to you real quick. When you heard the alarm go off and you like this is all legit, do you have any idea as to what is actually coming?
No ideas initially. So, like I heard the first SAR alarm. So usually, like the pilots, they'll go to the ops center and start gathering more information. For me, I'm going off that initial call of like, it's this DCS alert happening offshore. So I'm like, all right, it might be something. Then I'll go find Spencer and pick him up, and then we'll go either meet at the ops center or somewhere on the hangar deck to figure out, hey, what we need and where we're going.
Right on. And then, so had you ever hoisted to a sailboat at that point in time? And I know I'm jumping a little bit, but just. Oh, you did? Okay, cool. Because there's something to be said about hoisting to a sailboat like that. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So you guys fly for an hour offshore. Oh my God. Hey, Spencer, did you fall asleep on the way? It's just out of curiosity.
No.
Oh, okay, because I would have been like, wake me up when we get there, boys. I'm just kidding.
I was just looking out, watching the waves get bigger and stuff. Because it was wet, yeah, like we already talked about it, but it was like so nice and like offshore winds and clean here, local. And you're like, oh, it's a nice day. It's like the best beach day ever in Humboldt. And it was just terrible and horrible out there. It was so windy and big, the seas. It was like, didn't make sense.
Like I didn't even consider the weather when we launched. It was like sunny. It was like one of those rare, nice, sunny Humboldt summer days, and we were like, oh yeah, like let's just take as much gas as we can and start heading out there. Didn't even like consider the weather being different out there.
Right on.
I mean, there's nothing to tell us different. There's no weather reporting or anything. So yeah, it just kind of went from beautiful day to not. So
yeah,
to hurricane force winds at 55 knots or like 20-foot waves.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, Adam, because you're sitting right seat. You guys roll up on scene. Run us through it. Like describe everything that was there. Everything you're looking at. What do you see it?
So we rolled up on scene, but like we've been saying, it was big out there. So we initially were looking for the boat. They had this container ship that had eyes on them and were talking to them. We couldn't talk to them. And they were vectoring us, and like we couldn't find the boat. Like we could see white caps, and that was really it. And we're talking it's an 80-foot boat, 2 masts. This should not be a difficult, find. It's only like a couple miles, I think, from the container ship. But it probably took us 15 minutes or so to find the boat, just because of the sea state. I think there was some confusion, again, comms issues between if the container ship was giving us like a relative bearing or a true bearing or this and that. But eventually we find it, and at that point, I think we were just thinking, like Ryan said, a medevac. But this boat, which we were told is DIW, doesn't seem to be DIW. There's no, like sails up or anything. They're not under power, but like they were moving. The wind was pushing them. So we had talked about it the whole way out there, like trying to devise how we were going to do it. We didn't think putting Ryan directly to the boat Spencer directly to the boat was going to work out. That was definitely not going to work out. But no, putting Spencer wasn't going to work out because of the mass and all that kind of stuff. So we thought we had a really good plan, and I think once we got into it, we kind of realized there was a couple things we hadn't considered. Because as soon as we put Spencer in the water and the boat like sails past them, like it started to get really sporty really quick, and it was a show for sure.
All right, so before we get too far into that, the brief in the aircraft prior to putting Spencer down, did you guys consider putting him to the boat at all?
I don't think so. We had talked about it, but yeah, I think just with all the rigging, there was rigging everywhere. It was a 2-masted sailboat, so extra, just rigging to have to work through in the 20-foot waves and all that kind of stuff. We might could have done it, but it would have been a major risk of getting him tangled up somewhere. So we pretty quickly decided not to.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah,
right,
we did.
Peter, let me come to you.
Hey,
hold on, Spence, because you're going to take over here in a second.
I was trying to
Peter,
add to the brief, like before. We were like briefing the whole way out, pretty much talking about different. Like I just remember like Ryan was doing a really good job, like in terms of like mission planning and kind of running us through all the different scenarios that we could run into, and I feel like everything was briefed really well. Like kind of like we all brainstormed pretty hard for like 45 minutes on the way out there.
We had an hour to talk about it, and we definitely did.
Like by the time we got on scene, everyone was so tuned into each other and like all the different possibilities, and that helped a lot.
Oh, that's killer. Excellent. All right, Peter, you're about to hoist Spencer down from like 140 feet in altitude to 20-foot waves. What is going through your head right now?
A little bit worried because a couple things I'm thinking about is Spencer's about to disconnect from the helicopter into this water. And so I'm thinking about how am I going to get him again? What's going to be the recovery method? Did I send down the hoist hook? Well, the hoist hook's going to be sailing, 100, 200 feet behind the helicopter by itself. Send down the basket, be a little bit better. But we did ultimately elect for him to disconnect from the helicopter and then attempt to climb onto the ship. Our goal was to put him about 100 yards in front of or downwind the ship, let the ship roll into him because they're getting pushed about, I'd say, 8 knots or so by the wind. And then he'll grab onto the side, he'll grab onto the rigging, and then climb aboard that way. So I am mainly concerned about rescue swimmer recovery here. If you go back to the hoist footage, I think I'm talking about it a lot, is I'm constantly shifting my configuration in the back of, I got the basket on, ready to pick up the swimmer, or I'm just going to attach weight bags to the hoist hook to ready to pick up the swimmer, just in case he gets out of reach of that sailboat.
Right on. Right on. All right, Spencer. You're going to the water to go swim over to a boat going 9 knots in 20-foot waves. Bro. I can see it all right now, dude. It's like, run us through it, dude. What happened?
Yeah. So basically, I was just thinking back about other cases I'd heard about people with sailboats recently, and like how they're like, oh yeah, I just went down, grabbed onto the side or the whatever, and grabbed onto the rope off of the boat and pulled myself on. And I was like, well, sweet, this rope's dragging behind this boat already. And I didn't even think in my head, like the biggest oversight was like something on the side of the boat to climb on. Because the stories I had heard from other guys was like little sailboats, like tiny ones, where they got like a rope behind and they can just climb on the back, like where there's like a little platform where like some boats have a little platform on the back you can climb up, or like something. This one was like the back of a ship, and hindsight, I was like, oh man, why didn't I think of something off the side like a rope ladder? But anyway, they had lots of lines behind them. And so Pete calls me to the door, and I'm like, all right, let's go, dude. And I'm sitting in the door, and we're like leading them a little bit. And they're ripping. And then we're coming down, approach to the water. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, dude, let's get farther ahead of them. Because we're like, first came down a little close. And I was like, they're going to blow right by me. So then we let them a little more. And yeah, I was just kind of like locked in, got into the water. Disconnected and like sprint to this boat, and the water is like crystal clear. I remember it. It was like, whoa. But then this you get down from when you're approaching, and this little boat turns into like a huge ship, and you're like, whoa, it's actually a big boat. And then you're like, wow, these seas are actually pretty big. And then you're like, well, you're locked in at that point though, and now you're going down, and you're freaking into the water, disconnecting, you're sprinting towards this huge boat, and then you're like going along the side of it, and you're like, there's nothing on the side of this boat to grab onto. Shit. And then there's like, here's the line, I grab onto this, and then you're like, like it's sliding through your hands, and you're like, dude, I'm about to just blow it right now and like end up behind this thing, and everyone's talking about how we're out of fuel. So I'm just like gripping, like vice gripping as hard as I can, like trying to wrap my legs around the rope and anything I can, and like finally got a grip, and it was just like bink, brrr, like mask in the water, like oh. Yeah, and that pretty much started the whole struggle.
How many times did it take you to like go hand over hand up that rope to get to the boat?
I wasn't counting, but at least 3 or 4.
You're like hand over hand up to the boat, don't have anything to grab, and then you're going backwards down the rope, and then you gotta do the whole thing again. You do that 3 or 4 times.
Well, there was a couple times where I was like, dude, I'm end of this rope for sure, but the ropes were pretty long, luckily. But then at the same time, I had way more to make up. So yeah, I was hanging on, got a grip, and then I guess they would because they would go up a swell, then down a swell, right? So you'd have like a little time frame where it's like, all right, go. So you're like, you try to fin and like help yourself, but you're going too fast to fin, and your big fins are just kind of flopping behind you. Yeah. And so like if you do anything, so it was just all like rope climb through the water, hand over hand, like, and yeah, I'd go, and then I'd get like as far as I could to where the ropes were like coming out of the water, up to the back of the boat, and I like would look, and I'd see this guy in the back like steering the freaking ship like through the seas. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like surfing boat basically, like That's how it felt. Like when you fall and you're like still trying to hang on to the thing when they like clutch ahead, you know? But yeah, then I was like, I'd get there and then I'd be like, oh, now what? And then all of a sudden they go down a swell and it's like, and I'd like lose a bunch of ground. I was like, oh, and then get a grip, climb back, think about it again, and then lose the grip, and then get closer, and then finally I'd like get close, and I was like yell at the dude at the back, and I was like trying to tell him to turn, and like they're looking. I don't know if they can hear me or anything, you know. And I'm just praying and climbing, and then I like finally I see him like I get close and I look, and they're throwing a little rope ladder over for me, and I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of like still 20 feet from 15 feet from like the farthest you can climb up the rope, because it's like the rope, you get close and it goes up to the back, and then there's the rope ladder off the quarter, so you got a little distance there. So yeah, I saw that and I was like trying to tell them to turn. I don't know if they could hear me, then I'd lose my ground. Got back close, they must have like came up a swell and turned perfectly, and like my prayers were answered. Next thing I know, I'm like, my arms are blown out. I'm like, this is it, dude. Like, it's either I go for it on this one. Here's my chance. Like, I was like, everything came together. Like, prayers answered. The boat's turning. We're coming up a swell. There's like a weird swirl, like whirlpool thing off the quarter, and like my arms are done. I can't do another like reclimb, lose ground maneuver, and I just like freaking pull past and swim as hard as I can, and then like jetting for this little rope ladder, and I like blasted and I started to surge past it a little. I was like, oh my gosh, that actually worked. I'm like, then it surges back and it's like I like pass the rope ladder a little bit, just a tiny bit, and then it's like zoop, and I'm like, oh no, dude, not doing that again. Stuck my arm through the rung, and then like took my talon hook and like clipped into it, and then just like let go, and it was like freaking limp lizard, just freaking, and then like the bottom of the boat's like above me because they like hung it off the quarter there, and I just see like all these cables and like whatever under the boat like above me, and I'm just like, just like taking a breath for a second because I gotta like climb up it, and then like the boat's like bouncing off my helmet, and I was like, kind of almost going underwater and stuff, and then I was like, all right, let's go, and then climb up, right? I had to take my fins off a little to get my feet into the rungs, and I was like, don't lose these, you know, kind of all the little things to think about. So like arm climb up the rope ladder, and I'm like, here's the ledge of the boat, and I'm like, you know, and they're all looking at me like, and I'm looking at them like, hey, you want to give me a hand here? And then like help me like climb in the rest of the way, and I'm like, trying not to creep out though, so I'm like, what's going on, guys? Trying to play it cool, you know? And then I'll just like I got off of a UFO or something, and I was like, so scoping, right? I'm like, all right, they got life jackets. They're all wearing them. Sweet. Okay, who's got the broken arm? And the lady, oh, over here. And then I see my radio's going off. Sure, and I hear you guys calling me on the radio, and like my heart's pounding in my brain. And I was like trying to hear what you guys were saying, but I already knew. I didn't even have to hear what you were saying because I already knew. And I saw you guys coming in with the basket in the door, like coming in closer. I'm like, all right, it's time to go.
All right, stop right there. Hold on. Time out, Spencer. Okay, I got to go to you three in the aircraft. So Ryan, Adam, Peter, you're seeing him like battle down there. Who had the best view? Is that, I assume it was Adam and Peter had the best view of Spencer just battling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
I remember specifically, like, we're watching the sailboat get, you know, it's a steady 8-10 knots through the water. I remember like looking at the sailboat, it's got a pretty decent wake. Then I remember looking back and there's this little dot like 20 yards behind the sailboat that's awake. I'm like, that's Spencer. He's back there. He's holding on to something and just slowly working his way up. And this whole time, like, we're sitting there talking, like, there's no way he's getting on. Like, we're getting ready. Like, we're just going to emergency pick him up, and then we're out of fuel. We have to go back. Sure enough, it felt like forever. And honestly, it was probably like 5-8 minutes of Spencer just working in the back of the boat, just hand over hand, slowly creeping up until he gets to the edge of it. And then I remember specifically when he hooked onto that ladder. I remember a time where it looked like he got lifted out of the water entirely. The stern of the boat got lifted up in a wave. He's just sitting there dangling, and then it comes down and just slams back on top of him. I'm like, oh, that's it. Like, we're picking him up. There's no way he's still holding on. But I didn't realize at the time he was physically clipped in. I thought it was just, death gripping the whole thing the whole time.
Yeah, I remember thinking like I don't know what was going on in my mind, but I thought it was going to be either like easier than that for some reason, because like if he could get on, like he would just get on the boat somehow. But there's no, as we were watching it, it was like, oh well, there's no way he's going to get on. Like if you've ever like been water skiing, right? And like you catch an edge or whatever, and like you face plant and the boat's still pulling you, and like it's rooster tailing off your face. Like that's what it looked like. Like Spencer had like and I was like,
Yep.
oh, there's no way. And then like Peter was saying, he gets to the ladder, and like his fins are probably 5 feet out of the water as the stern is going up, and then crashing back in. I didn't realize he was clipped in either. So it was like watching a movie. We're all like eating popcorn in the plane, just like chilling while Spencer's going through hell over there. So it was something else for sure.
Yeah, that whole time you guys are describing what you're seeing, and you're like, and I got like a couple glimpses over the glare shield, and it's like, yeah, so it's like when a little kid is like wakeboarding and falls down and doesn't let go, and they're just getting like dragged under the water. And then we're like, oh man, we're gonna like we messed this one up. We're gonna have to go get him somehow, and then like go all the way back to Humboldt because we don't have enough gas to like try this whole thing again. So I was like, oh, how are we gonna do this? Like, whatever. Like just crunching numbers and looking at the gas and just like hoping that he's on there. Like, come on, man. Like you can do it. Like, yeah, it definitely in my head was going to be like easier. I was thinking like what Spencer was saying, like as the rail like passed by him, he just like grab on it like every other sailboat and then just like, leap himself on. But like it was a 80-foot like ship. So like, I don't know what we were thinking.
And like I said, they didn't have the rope ladder out until after I was being drugged behind him for like that whole time.
Yeah.
They saw. I remember I got close, and then like seeing him throw the rope ladder over, like here you go, and I'm like, bro, that's still so far for me.
Kind of curious what was going on in their mind, because I think they were kind of just holding on for dear life there. I don't know how much awareness they had that Spencer was behind them. Obviously, they knew we were in front of them, but like they were having a rough day already. So
Yeah, I remember like everyone on the boat was out on the fantail. They're all dressed up in their survival suits, life vests, and they're all just sitting there hanging on.
Yep.
Dang. All right, so at one point or another, you guys are out of gas, and Spencer's still on the vessel, and you're trying to radio him. What does that conversation look like in the aircraft?
Yeah, we had already dropped the bingo once, and we didn't want to do it again because like we weren't sure what the weather was going to be like for the journey back. And I remember thinking like, oh, maybe we can make it to Crescent City and that would help us. So I plugged in Crescent City into the CDU, and it actually made our bingo go down because of the way that the winds were. It was like blowing us closer to Humboldt. So I was like, well, I'm putting Humboldt back in, and made the bingo go back up like a minute or two. So we're like, I guess we're going to go back all the way to Humboldt because we would have had tailwind. But I didn't want to drop it more because I was like, man, what if that tailwind turns into a headwind and we're 90 miles offshore and we can't make it back to like America? So I was like, let's just keep bingo where it's at, and like we just got to go when it hits zero. Like that was what I was thinking, and I did not want to leave Spencer out there in the water. You know what I mean? Like because that boat was just getting blown miles away from him, and there was nobody else. We didn't have cover. The C-27 wasn't out there yet. Like Spencer would have just been like straight up on his own. Hopefully he can get to his little swimmer raft. So I was like, we got to get him. Like priority one is get him back because like there's no way he's going to get on that boat if he lets go of that rope.
All right, so now when you see him get on the boat, you know he's there. I got two questions for you. The first one is, you guys have now made a decision to send the basket and like go get him. But was there ever a talk of saying, hey, you know what? Let's leave him on the boat. He's secure. We're gonna come back and get him. Like, let's bail out and come back. Was there ever a talk of that inside the aircraft?
I don't remember talking about it because once he got on the boat, we were like, send the basket down, let's go get him and like I was trying to talk to him on 83 on his radio, but like, I mean, he's getting like battered by the wind and stuff, and he's obviously like, you know, on this boat that's just getting tossed. So we're like, hey man, we're coming in. We got whatever it was. Like, it ended up being like 3 minutes to bingo by the time he like jumped into the water to like for them to get the basket down and for Spencer to get the survivor into the basket.
One of the biggest things that is hindsight overlooked too is like one of the main calls that and reports we were getting is that their boat was taking on water and they were sinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that
That would suck.
Our reports were that they were sinking and they had a lady with a broken arm. So we were trying to like, you know, get things going for them.
Yeah. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Breeze Eastern. For over 80 years, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured battle-proven aerial rescue hoists, winches, and cargo hooks. Each product is carefully crafted to support demanding mission scenarios, ensuring the job gets done safely and efficiently. Visit them today at www.breeze-eastern.com.
Yeah, we didn't have a pump, but the North Bend crew had a pump. So we were just like, all right, let's get this person who needs medical care like now. Let's get them off, and then we'll just like come back out and figure out the rest of them afterwards.
Freaking awesome. All right, so we're down to about 3 minutes coming up or past bingo. We've got enough time to do one hoist. You guys are yelling at Spencer on the radio. Radio is like, all I hear is got it. And you see the basket coming out of the aircraft. At what point is that like, okay, we got to go?
Oh yeah, I knew because we were like, all right, we got like 10 minutes or whatever it was, and then they sent me down, and then I was like, bro, I felt like I was behind the boat for 10 minutes, you know. it felt like forever. So I was like, all right, dude, we're definitely bingo for fuel right now, dude. So I was like, all right, everyone. So I was like, sweet, you got a life jacket, you're good to go. Let's I gotta take you, and we're gonna go back to get you to the hospital, but you're gonna have to jump in the water with me because we can't hoist you from this boat, right? And so she's like, looks at me all nervous, whatever, like, oh, and then her friends are kind of urging her on. And they had like sweet inflatable life vests with like all this like rad gear stuff. So I was able to like clip to her because of her. She had like sailboat harness with inflation thing. So I got her to the edge, clipped it to her just in case she like tried to bail on me last second. And then I was like, all right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. And I just like grabbed her and like jumped off the freaking side of the boat with her into the water, and her thing like blew up, plated and everything. It was rad. And then we like sprinted over to the basket with her, and the basket's coming down. Pete's like killing the game, like craziest basket hoist ever. Scoop her in, and then like Brian was talking about, all that leaving me on scene stuff was going through my brain too, and I was like, I don't want to get left out here. Good luck finding me. We had a hard enough time finding the boat, which was huge. And,
that's great.
This was like at that time too, where there was a lot of like procedure stuff, talks going, where like, can you clip into the basket? Well, maybe, technically no, this and that. And I was like, well, I don't want to deal with all the like, should I clip in, should I not? And then I like even thought about it. I was like, well, maybe I'll clip in. I like went to try it, and then it was like starting to dunk the basket, and she was already in it. And I was like, I don't want to try something new on the fly moment, because there's like seconds going through my brain. I'm like, I gotta move quick here, and I don't want to try something new and like totally blow it like last second here. So I had like game time. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna hop in with her because I know the basket can hold both of us. And that's like the safe call in this critical moment. So
you jumped in the basket with the lady?
Yeah, because I wasn't.
Bro, like, that is awesome.
Yeah, I had never actually like practiced clipping in, because I could have clipped into the basket from the outside, but like from the water it's kind of hard because the bails come up, and then I had never really done it before, so I didn't want to try something new on the fly that I wasn't comfortable with, when I knew that I could safely
in 20-foot waves, 100 miles offshore, 55 minutes. Yeah, I agree with you. I got you.
I was
maybe in training that'd be a good spot to try it. Out there, maybe not.
I was like, well, there's room for both of us in here. She was pretty small, you know. So I just hopped in with her. I gave him the old thumbs up.
All right, Peter, you're about to hoist them up, and you're seeing everything that's going on in the water.
Mhm.
What is going through your mind right now?
So kind of like the previous conversation we're having in the helicopter, we're worried about fuel and we're worried about leaving Spencer on scene. Both those things are my primary concern, especially the leaving Spencer on scene. Something I do not want to do because, like you said, it was very difficult to find that sailboat, and finding a little rescue swimmer, his head in the water, or his rescue swimmer raft would be exceptionally difficult, even with like an EPIRB going off. So hoisting, like I'm down hanging outside the door because the bass is sailing behind us. I attach like as much weight that we can to it to help weigh it down so it actually gets to the water. We get him on there. I see he puts the survivor inside the basket, and I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, I'm gonna wait for him to hook up. I gotta wait for him to do something. I was expecting him to hook up to the hoist cable and just like ride the side of the basket up with the survivor. Then I saw him. He just like the basket's in the water. He just kind of reaches both hands around either side of the rails and just kind of slumps over on top of the survivor. Like, all right, he's in the basket. We're going. Here we go. And then, yeah, I start picking it up. I do it, take it slow. So with the basket drifting behind the helicopter, as soon as you bring the slack in, it's going to start dragging them a little bit until they're out of the water. So just kind of take it slow a little bit through the waves. And then kind of once it's plumb to the helicopter, start taking them up. And then once they're clear. I just start bringing them up and then managing the swing that's going on. And then while this is happening, like Spencer's getting resituated, he's like tucking his fins in with his hands. His legs are like hanging outside the basket, and then it was great. It was wonderful to see. I was very happy to see it, and he was coming up together. So we're like, all right, we got him. We can, start, slowly creeping our way back to home while we bring them in.
I heard Pete say Spencer's in the basket, and I was like, oh, nice, that's good. Then we can start heading home. Like, like that gets rid of that. Plan C and plan D of leaving them on scene. So, and then I remember looking from the left seat, like over my shoulder as they're coming up to the cabin, and I just see like arms and fins and survival gear just like flopping out everywhere, and like Pete's trying to like get this like mess of like humanity into the cabin while we're like Adam's like kind of like slowly ITOing towards like California, and I was like, all right, like cool, we got him, let's get out of here. It was wild. And one thing I was gonna say to Pete, when he delivered the basket, it was sailing back so much, and he clipped in like a bunch of weight bags to the basket, which was like a great idea. Like, cause usually you put the weight bags on like the bear hook to like have it go straight down, but he added like weight to the basket so that it wouldn't sail back as much. Like, I think that was a good call. I just remember him doing that.
Super
and I was like,
smart.
oh, nice, dude. Good idea. Yeah.
Oh, well done, Pete. Dang, man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. So now, Peter, you get him up to the cabin. Now you've got to pull Spencer and the victim in and the basket with the weight bags now. Dude, I know at one point you're struggling. You're like, everything you got to get him inside. So,
it's not a graceful movement. If you actually look at the hoist cam footage, you can see this right arm from the co-pilot seats and lacks onto the basket and starts pulling as well as Ryan reached over and started helping as well. So the hoist boom on the side does bring them in far enough where they'll come in far enough and you can lower the basket on the deck. And it's just a matter of fact of like shifting them through this tiny L corner in the back of the Type 65 and getting them into the back. So I'm thinking like, all right, I want to get the hoist boom situated. I want to get the hoist stack closed, get the door closed because we got to start going back quickly. So my goal is I'm just going to stick you guys in that corner. You figure yourselves out, and I'm going to get the helicopter cleaned up so we can go.
Nice. Ryan, thanks for the help. Yeah, let me see the gun. It's like gun show.
Yeah.
It's like, one arm, pull that basket in. That's really nice of you.
I was like grabbing the like handle, and then I was, cause he was like you can hear on hot mic, this is in the old Delta, you can hear him like grunting and like all this like muffled noise, and you're like, what the hell is going on? And so I was like, look, and I was like, there's the basket. So I'm like pulling, like trying my best.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if it actually helps.
Oh my God, I love that.
It does. It does. When I'm like 2
I-
feet on either side of the cabin door, hands gripping, trying to pull them in. We're talking like 500 pounds of wet people. So it's some weight.
That is awesome. All right, so Peter, you get the cabin door closed, lock. Adam, you get up going like full throttle or as fast as you can back to shore to maximize the fuel burn and wind and take tailwind. Spencer, now you're in the back of the patient. You got 45 minutes to like catch your breath for a minute, and then you got to care for the patient. How was that?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Like they already had her arm all packaged up, basically, and she didn't speak English. Of course, she was the one that didn't speak like any English. Um, and I was just kind of concerned about keeping her warm and whatnot because she was in the cold water, and of course, you like find the thermostat in the thermometer in the EMP kit, and then you're like check your temperature, then like you lose it somewhere in the back, and there's like crap everywhere. And yeah, um, and then you're trying to talk to her, and it's loud, and she doesn't have ICS, so you're like yeah, and she doesn't speak English, so then you're like, all right,
Yeah.
doing my
Okay.
best back.
Just sit there and you just chill out. Hit me if you need anything. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing like the most I could, but it was
I
a
love
little
it,
bit.
dude. I love it. All right. So you guys get back to the Humboldt. Ambulance is waiting. You offload her. Now you've got 5 more people that you have to go back out for. 2 questions with that. One, you know you're going back out to the same location. So I'd like a little bit of a brief knowing what you're going out to. And then at what point did you guys get North Bend involved?
So North Bend got launched almost the same time. Like once we relayed back that there was like 6 people on the boat and they were like taking on water. Once the sector learned that, they requested North Bend launch and bring a pump out. So they had gotten underway soon after we had launched, before we got on scene, the first sortie. But they had to fly all the way down from North Bend to Brookings, and they went to the Brookings airport, which has like this like self-service gravity refueling, and it wouldn't like read their credit card or something. It was so they couldn't get gas. So they had to start back up and fly to Crescent City, shut down again, and get gas before they even could get out there. Like, so they were like, that was one of the things that we weren't sure where they were. So when we went to the command center after we landed, we were like, all right, where's North Bend at? And like, all right, they're like, fueling at Crescent City. And I was like, oh geez, okay, well, that means we're probably going back out and we're gonna get there first because it's gonna take them longer to get there. So we had heard that, and then we had also like on our way back with the first patient, we heard the C-27 check in, and they were like en route, and they were gonna go try and do a pump drop or whatever. They actually, to their credit, they did drop a pump, and somehow the crew of the boat was able to get the pump onto the sailboat, but it didn't start. Classic.
Oh man, what a great drop from them! Holy cow!
I know.
That's a precision drop right there. And you know what? For the record, that pump actually would have worked. They just didn't read the directions right. Because we do a good job with the pumps, don't we, Spencer?
The instructions just weren't in their language.
Exactly. It would have worked. Right. All right. So the brief. What is the brief going back out for you guys? Now, I mean, you know what you're going to.
Yeah. So we knew the situation, and we knew how many people were on board, and we knew like what the comms kind of plan was, and we were talking to the C-27 and hoping that they had gotten in touch with the sailboat, but they still couldn't talk to the sailboat. So they were talking to the tanker, and the tanker was talking to the sailboat somehow. So they had this like, telephone game going on. So we were asking them if they were able to get the pump going, and they said no, and they're still taking on water. And so we basically said like, hey, we're going to be there in whatever it was, 35 minutes. So like, are they going to abandon ship, or are they staying on board? Like tell them that there's a helicopter on their way. And then through that telephone game, they're like, they're going to abandon ship. They said that they can't control the flooding. It's like too much, and it's going to sink. So we're like, all right. And then we started briefing, like, how are we going to get the rest of these people? How are we going to manage the cabin? Like that kind of stuff. We had plenty of power. We weren't worried about torque or anything, because it was saying, we're cruising at 60 knots when we were in a hover. So we had plenty of power. Like we were not really ever in a true hover. So anyway, we were just talking about how we were going to do this the quickest way possible. And so we got to talking about like, it was a brainstorm, and I don't remember whose idea it was, but it was one of you guys were like, what if we were going to just do a direct? I think Pete was like, hey, I don't want him to disconnect. And Spencer was probably like, yeah, that sounds good. Or vice versa. But anyway, we all came to the conclusion that we were going to do a direct, but then level him off, like eye level with the boat basically. And then he was going to like, I don't know, Spencer like motion to them to like jump to him, and then they would like one at a time jump off, and he would like, I think he quick dropped him, right?
Yeah, no, I was basically like, all right, I'm not gonna do that again, but I know that they all have life jackets that work, and they're all like nice, like really nice high end stuff they had on. So I was like, all right, well, I can just go down, and if we can get comms through the boat to let him know, like, hey, the guy's gonna come down. He's gonna like point and tell you to jump in one at a time, and then I'm gonna go down and grab him. Like easy, right? Easy day. They just hop in, boom, you go down, strap them up, bring them in, and then you can just get them all like that from the water.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to tell the C-27 to tell them, the tanker to tell the boat, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then one of them was like telling the boat, no, we're going to send a rescue basket down. And I was like, no, we're not. We're sending down the crazy swimmer guy, and he's just going to grab you.
Yeah, I figured like worst case scenario, the comms get fudged up, but they know they have to jump off in the water, and they'll see the first person get got, and then it'll kind of fall in place from there. Or really worst case scenario is they all hop in at once, but even then it would go all right.
Yeah. So then we just pick them up one at a time.
And then did you guys run out of fuel, and that's why you had to leave the last two? We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
We had probably like maybe 15 minutes of on-scene time left, but like the Northman helicopter rolled up at that time, and they had watched us do the last like hoist, and I was like, hey, what's your bingo? And they're like, oh, we're 52 minutes to bingo. And I was like, all right, you got these guys. See ya.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So easy. Peter, I want to come back to you real quick, because now you're going to hoist down, and I want your perspective of this. You're going to con in like right next to the vessel. Adam, you have to have somewhat good references to hold on to be somewhat close enough where you don't lose the boat and you don't lose your reference. And again, this is, as a reminder, this is 140 feet. Like, that's a huge hoist. Dude, Spencer, you're like going down. You're like watching your watch. You're like, I'll be down there in a minute, boys. So, Pete, let me come to you. How's that running through your head, doing that 140-foot hoist down to level off with the boat?
So luckily, going in, we had previously talked, like, I didn't want Spencer to disconnect from the hook anymore. If something goes wrong, I can drag you through the water. I'll get you back to the helicopter either way. So the easiest method of direct deployment is Spencer's remain on the hook the whole time. He is, probably 200 pounds of weight with all of his gear, so he's going to weigh down the hoist hook. He's not going to sail back behind the helicopter in the wind. And all I have to worry about is one target dropping off of the boat, one survivor. And with the seas the way they are and the way the boat's getting pushed, as soon as they're off, they're drifting far away from the boat. So we can just maneuver and over and pick them up. We're safe from any obstacle of the sailing mass going back and forth in the waves. Game plan was, from my perspective, it's kind of hard to judge the difference, the distance of Spencer to the water at that distance. So I'm waiting for him to give me like the level off signal so I don't dunk him accidentally or level him off too high. And the game plan was we're just gonna, get him as close as possible to the vessel, and then he can kind of motion, one person, come to me, and then sure enough, the crew understood what was happening either through his signal or through a radio call that, all right, first person goes, and then they jump off, they inflate their vests, they kind of swim away, and then I just con the pilots in. It's a relatively straightforward hoist in this case, since Spencer's not drifting too much. I just con the pilots in, we get them over, I put Spencer, within arm's length of the survivor. He does his work, gets them set up, and then we pick them up one at a time.
Dude, awesome. My God, you guys. Hey, Spencer, I forgot to ask you, did you by chance refuel and have a good supplement meal or something? Did you pound some protein or some creatine while you were back at base? We got to go round 2. Let's go.
I think I raided the snack bar a little bit and probably smashed some granola bars or something. I don't really remember, but I do remember grabbing a bunch of lollipops for the rest of the survivor.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes. Oh, my God. I love it. Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, you guys. That's
You
funny.
gave him the lollipop, and it was those mango spicy ones from the Super
Right.
Chavez Market in Ukiah. And I remember I think it was Pete was like, "Oh, every time they eat this lollipop for the first time, they make a weird face because it's like you're expecting this candy, but it's like chili powder."
It's chili power mango candy.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my God.
Loved it.
Adam, anything else from you, like on the last bit, the last hoist coming up? Is there anything that stands out to you that you want to touch on?
Yeah, mostly just that Pete did a great job. Like, this was not a typical hoist. We don't typically train at 140 feet. We don't typically train with that much wind or anything. So, like, usually we're at 30 feet. You're talking about references and stuff. Usually I can see, like, our rotor wash and bubbles and, all kinds of stuff to hold us stationary. But this was like, there's nothing. I was just kind of holding station with the boat, and Pete did a great job. Usually, one thing, like, if we're pilots and like the flight mech is like trying to do like a real precision hoist, like the longer it goes, the worse it gets for us up front, because I start to like kind of lose the button. But like, you put him down, picked him back up, put him down, picked him back up every single time. So it was smooth. It was fine. A lot of big movements. There's a lot of like forward 20s, left 20s, right 20s, because
we briefed ahead of time. So usually, like, once you're coming in close to the survivor, it'd be like easy right, easy left, easy back, easy forward. That's for the pilot to make very small, minute movements into the flight controls. But I told him, like, no, I'm gonna be saying like right 30, right 40, or this pretty much this whole time. Just be ready for that, ready for big corrections.
Wow, man, I didn't even think of that. That's pretty badass, dude.
Yeah, it was like heavy seas. Like, they were moving around just with the sea state, right? So.
Wow.
Yeah, moving around, moving up and down, some of the hoist cable paying in and out. Because they could like be at the top of the wave, but the wave disappears underneath them, but there's not enough slack, so it yanks them out of the water, and just trying to account for all of that.
Adam's kind of selling himself short. Like, the boat would drift under the helicopter and then like out of his sight, and so he was just like looking at nothing, but still maintaining a stable hover, which was like crazy because the boat was out the left side at like by the time we were doing the pickup, and so Adam's just like, I don't even know what you're looking at, but it was sick.
Those for me, I mean, this just goes to say like how good of a job they did flying, and Pete operating the hoist is like, that part where I did the directs felt so easy. It was like straight butter, like so buttery, like so easy, and like I didn't even notice anything being hot. Like, it was just like perfect directs in like the craziest seas. You know what I mean? Like his cable management.
Yeah.
After your initial experience, I think, yeah, relatively it was easy for sure.
For me, it was.
Yeah.
Like, easy on the second part.
Hey, Pete, I gotta give you mad credit, man, because what is not talked about here on this podcast very often is the fact that you have to manage 140 feet of cable out in 20-foot swells, and the speed of the cable or the speed of the hoist. Correct me if I'm wrong. It only goes 250 feet a minute up to that. Is that right?
250 feet per minute.
I still know. Look at me.
Still got
it. Good. Now, got that one right. But you're moving the hoist cable in and out to over and under waves so that you're not putting 20, 30, 40 feet of cable in the water that Spencer might get hung up on. Go ahead.
Yeah, when you're doing direct deployments, you put the swimmer right directly on the survivor. It's going to take them a little bit to figure out, get the strap around them, get everything hooked up. So we can back away slightly, now pay out cable, and so we'll have a good amount of like 30, 40 feet of slack of cable. But it's not like cable that's draping over them. It's cable that's slack between them and the helicopter. And that way, as the waves are churning around and stuff, they have a lot of room to work with, and we're not yanking and banking them around.
The catenary method. Absolutely love it. See, I still remember my terms. Come on, Pete. Let's go. Man, all right. You guys bail out. You're on your way home. You got three survivors? Nope. Yeah. Three survivors in the back of the aircraft, chilling out. Spencer's taking care of them. They're all eating lollipops, and everybody's stoked. Yeah? That's freaking amazing. Did the North Bend crew meet you guys in Humboldt with the last two victims?
They had to. They had to.
Yeah, they did.
I think they
That was
broke
where
down.
they did break. They had a brand new Echo. It was like they had just gotten it, but we were listening on the radio with them. They did the same method, got the last two, and they were kind of like, I don't know, a few miles behind us, and we got to Humboldt, shut down, and then they came in and shut down, and then like the after story is also kind of funny too. I don't know how far into it you want to get into it.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. My question was
good.
With the survivor.
Did your wife have to go get more steaks or what?
Never did it.
Oh, yeah, we never ate the steak,
man.
actually.
Never did.
We got back. It was like right at sunset or right after sunset. It got dark like relatively quick, but then Spencer took all the survivors. Actually, like, I don't even know where you went. You took all of them into the swimmer shop and like show them where to like change and like warm up or whatever. Like, you take over for that part.
So they were all wet and needed dry clothes, so I showed them where the locker rooms were, and I was like, get some hot showers going, and I'll grab you guys some dry clothes. And so then I went up and grabbed a bunch of old flight suits. So then they each got a sweet old Pax flight suit to wear for their dry clothes, and so that was classic. And then they all come in, hang out in the shop, in their flight suits, and everyone was hungry. So I was like, dude, Tony's 24-hour diner, and then Tony's, Tony's.
I freaking love Tony's.
There's only one place,
bomb, dude.
There's only one place in Humboldt County that's open after like whatever 8 p.m. and it's Tony's. So like, I don't remember if Spencer. I think like somebody else drove.
CO and Exo were there by this time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
They took him out.
Yeah, the command drove them in a GV to Tony's to go get like food, and then we also ordered Tony's because we didn't eat dinner or because we were gonna have steak, so we ordered a bunch of Tony's, and then the North Bend crew broke, and they found out that they were gonna stay, so they took a GV, all the Tony's, and they were in their dry suits. So like the people in Tony's was like all these truck drivers, and then there was like 6 wet Germans in flight suits and like bare feet. And then like a captain, a commander, and then a bunch of people in dry suits, just all in line ordering like a ton of cheeseburgers.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think I had
funny.
A cheeseburger, a huge chocolate peanut butter shake, and garlic fries.
Yeah, no shake.
Mashed out and passed out,
Oh my God, you guys, this is amazing. Well done. You know what? Bravo to you guys, your entire crew. All of you guys did an amazing job. North Bend, good job to that crew as well. Man, 6 live saves because you guys. That's badass, dude. Well done, you guys. Freaking awesome. So, guys, I want to ask one more question before I let you go because this story has been epic, and I thank you so much for sharing with us. So my question is going to be this. If you guys had to do that same rescue over again, is there anything that you would pass on, like a piece of advice, or is there anything that you do now because of that rescue? Ryan, let me start with you.
It definitely changed my perspective about when to disconnect the swimmer, because it definitely adds a lot more like risk, right? Like it changes the dynamic. Now you've got one of your crew members not part of the aircraft anymore, and you have to make sure, like what Pete was saying, that you can get them back. So I definitely, on subsequent cases, like really think before you let the swimmer off the hook in a hazardous situation, and make sure that it's like worth it. Obviously there are good applications for the harness and for like sling deployment and obviously free fall, but it's just one of those elevated risks that you now no longer have the swimmer attached to you. So just make sure that it's the risk is worth the gain, I guess, or the gain's worth the risk.
Perfect. Adam, what about you?
I think just general like training, train outside your comfort zone. Like how many times are you doing swimmers offshore and you do your 30 foot, your 40 feet, maybe try 150 feet if it's a day that you can safely train that. Maybe, just trying to, had one guy tell me like he would just like come up with stuff as he was like taking showers. Like his mind would just be rolling and like, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen in this situation? That sort of thing. And like, sometimes the worst thing does happen. So like come up with those weird scenarios, like a 60 knot day with 75-foot masts and all that kind of stuff. And, challenge yourself. So
cool. I like it. Peter, I know you're not hoisting anymore. All right. You're up in the cockpit. You're in the front of the aircraft. But as a hoist operator, what would you tell the boys out there?
I'd say remain flexible. Along the lines of what Mr. Ownbey was saying is you got to chair fly. What we call it chair fly now for when you're trying to do flight school stuff is chair fly what could happen. You're not going to be able to train for everything. Obviously, we're not going to go out and do 150-foot hoist in the heavy seas. And so you got to workshop that before. Like, what does that look like? What is that perspective going to look like? And kind of like what we've already discussed, did you want your rescue swimmer to disconnect from that cable because you can get that cable back to them? And along those lines is like one of the unique things that I brought away from this case is we were working with a crew that from North Bend we never worked with. We were working with a crew that from Sacramento we never worked with, the C-27. I believe we even had a Coast Guard cutter on the way. So there's a lot of like the ability to kind of wrap your head around all the different assets coming in, all these new available things to you that you can use. And kind of workshop the ideas, but you can prepare up to a point. You just kind of got to be ready for it when it happens.
Right on. And my man Spencer, any advice you pass on to your fellow brothers?
Yeah, I've learned a lot since this case. I've had a bunch of cases since this one, and yeah, it's just one of those things that comes with experience, and also a lot of the new techniques that are being introduced to the our rescue swimmer arsenal of things. Like now we're making it so that it's pretty like more people. Yeah, it's like now like doing a bad poo, like a basket hooking up from the outside, and also litter lad poo, right? That's all stuff that people are doing now. And I was on the edge of that turning point, but I think practicing those things, especially with the litter and the basket, seeing how it feels to hook up on the hangar deck. Like if someone's in a syllabus and they're already having the plane hook up to hydraulics, just be like, go over and be like, hey, what's going on? Let me feel this out or whatever. Because then when you're in a situation like that, like if I was to go back and do it again, now I'm in a spot where I'm like, oh, I'd be more than comfortable knowing how to hook up. I mean, it's not hard to do, but just being comfortable with knowing how it's going to play out when I hook up from the outside of the basket. Because I've done it now and on the deck and whatnot, and just felt it out. So yeah, I mean, like they were all saying too, you think about through things, and you got to think about the worst thing. Because honestly, the sailboat case was the last case I wanted. It was like the one case where I was like, man, I don't want a sailboat case. Those sound hard. Those sound like the worst. You can't hoist a boat. Just a mess. And then that's the first one I got. And now I'm like, oh, sailboat case. Yeah.
Easy. Awesome. Hey guys, thank you so much for the sharing all the knowledge. I really appreciate you guys coming on to share this rescue. Again, mad props. Well done. 6 lives were saved because of you guys. And yes, North Bend as well. But you know what? You guys pulled them all to safety, and I'm psyched for you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on to join me. So,
no problem.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. And as soon as I get back, I'm going to find all you guys. We're all having a beer together, okay? Even if it's in different locations. I'm just saying, all right? Yeah? Okay. If you guys are in, I'm in. I'm just saying.
Sure.
I'm in.
In Jacksonville.
For your PA.
Yeah.
Done. I love it. Right on. Well, I'll be in touch, you guys. Thank you again so much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Breeze Eastern, For over 80 years, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured battle-proven aerial rescue hoists, winches, and cargo hooks. Each product is carefully crafted to support demanding mission scenarios, ensuring the job gets done safely and efficiently. Visit them today at www.breeze-eastern.com. Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft. As a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station, the PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
And
Switlik. No mission is the same. Why should your suit be? Introducing a new custom dry suit experience. Choose your fabric, colors, neck and wrist seals, zippers, pockets, collars, and so much more. Intelligent measuring prompts ensure the most tailored fit. Brought to you by Switlik Survival Products. For more information, visit us at www.switlik.com.
it's 5:30 in the morning. Who loves a walk at 5:30 in the morning? Don't you, buddy? We're going for a walk in the morning, get a little energy out. Broder, what do you think? Ready? Not a bad view, huh? It's pretty good. I know this guy's happy. All right, buddy, let's go.